Hey guys, EST here with what is definitely going to be the wildest video on my channel, and no, that's not clickbait. I was at a mass shooting. Several hundred people were evacuated, the police were involved, and I think I got home at like 4 in the morning. So I told a little bit of the story on my main channel. Didn't exactly hide the name of the place, but in this one I'm not going to say it. Just because, I don't want their name associated with it. It wasn't entirely their fault, and they handled it very, very well. So ever since I first got a firearm and my concealed carry permit, so during the concealed carry training class, we saw a lot of example videos from the real world, and I thought, I bet I could find, some of those on YouTube. And I did. I think actually the trainer recommended the ASP channel, Active Self-Protection, and I think they're probably the #1 on YouTube. Not just by views, they probably are. Just they are the best. So just wanted to shout them out because you guys should watch it too. Just about every day, they do a breakdown of like, here was a shooting, here was an attack, here was an assault, here was a robbery, here was a police-involved incident. And they've got, dash cams, body cams, they've got surveillance, they got, all that stuff, and they pause it and say, oh, here's what they could have done, here was their first opportunity to do this. Very, very, very helpful, and I watched it and I thought, I could get through anything now. And I would say during this whole situation, I'd probably give myself an A-. So, not perfect, but pretty good. Certainly better than random people in the crowd. And that's one of the lessons. If you take anything away from this video, it's how to not be one of the people in the crowd, because my gosh. But yeah, I'm going to just tell the story, and every time I think of like, oh, here's what I learned from that, here's a good takeaway, here's a good lesson, here's what could have been done differently, here's what other people screwed up, I will point it out, so there's going to be a lot of valuable information in here. So best part of the story is why I was at the casino that day. Well, I hate driving long distances, but there are no gun shows near me, and right down the street there was a gun show. So I got the email, 48 hours ahead of time, and I'm like, sure, let's go. So this was in the middle of, really bad ammo shortage. It was recently, obviously. And one of my guns that I just kind of bought for fun, it was like the least defensively apt gun. I really needed the money that month. My YouTube channels were down the toilet, kind of still are. That's why I made this one. Like and subscribe, thanks. So I was like, okay, I'm going to try and sell it because the price of that gun had gone through the roof. It was a very popular gun, very long waiting period to try to find one. The value had gone through the roof, and plus I packed a bunch of ammo in my car, whatever somebody wanted to make an offer on. But on the same time, I got an email from the casino, and they're like, hey, you should come back. We'll give you, food credit. There was a special event. There was a drawing. You get 10 points to get this. We'll give you $25 in free credit. I'm like, oh, that's a whole bunch of things. Cause I had a little bonus for just the month for existing. And it was right down the street. And I'm like, okay, cool. I could go get some free food. I could, pocket a couple bucks cause they'll just cycle their money once and, buy some chicken and leave. And then go to the gun show. I ended up, while cycling their free credit, getting a huge hand. It was $600. I was playing video poker. I think it was an 8X quads or something. It was nuts. So then I thought, well, that's almost as much as the gun is worth. So, maybe I'll go there and less aggressively, sell some stuff or just look around, maybe buy a box of ammo. Wasn't about to spend it or lose it, so I thought I'd play to about 5, maybe 550 because I'm a cheapo. Oh, man, another quads. I almost hit a dang royal. Ended up just jumping on tables for a little bit to mess around. Got a real high-end trips on Mississippi stud, won a couple more hundred, ended up at the end of the day with $2 grand. Boy, I don't think I've ever had a run like that. I was absolutely delighted, ready to pay some bills. Then I realized, oh, the gun show closes in 30 minutes. Crap, I'm not going to make it there. So I thought, okay, I'll at least get my chicken and go home. I don't really need to go to the gun show. Yeah, I'm pissed that I drove this far, but, on the other hand, $2 grand. So that's the setup. Here's the punchline. I had rifles with an S, shotguns with an S, lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of rounds of ammo, handguns, everything. Stuff I didn't intend to sell, but, somebody made me an offer, You don't drive that distance and leave something at home. Okay, there's no, oh, I'll just run down the street and pick it up. Yeah, I do have one of those at home. Yeah, I do have a box of that at home. No, you bring the entire armory. So right before the shooting happened, I was ordering my chicken, all right? I saw them boxing it up. And then I was looking around. I was on my phone catching Pokemon because, Pokemon Go, got to do that. I will warn you that is going to come up a lot during this story. And I still look around. No matter how much I'm looking down, it's just become habit that I will look around to see just what's going on every 30 seconds to a minute. I've gotten to the point where I'm uncomfortable if I stare at my phone too long. And it doesn't help that I had 2,000 cash on me, and I think a lot of people saw that I won that. I know, I'm such a quiet, reserved person. How could they ever have realized that I won a bunch of money a bunch of times? But anyway, I saw the security, which usually just kind of saunters around at the slowest pace you could ever possibly imagine. Sometimes they're helping people, giving directions, whatever, but they were walking 3 times the speed. So in other words, the speed of a normal human. And they were kind of looking. They were looking at each other. They looked like at least 2 of the security guards were walking to something. And I would say they looked worried, but they looked focused. So I thought, ooh, fight, cheater, drunk getting kicked off the table. Cool. I'd like to see it, not just like, ooh, world star film it, woo. Because, walking towards danger when you're not part of it is stupid, but I can handle myself in any situation. There was enough people there that it's not just like, oh, I'm gonna walk and follow some cops into a gas station. I wonder what they're doing there. Look like they're walking kind of fast. I'm gonna go get interested in this. No, that's stupid. But I mean, I can run. There's machines to hide behind in case it was something nuts and I didn't hear gunshots or smell smoke, So I just kind of, I stayed like 15 feet away, but I followed them just to see where they were going. And they stopped at like the first row of slots, and I overheard them say, we're evacuating. And I was like, oh, I mean, I don't hear a smoke alarm or anything. I kind of like listened really hard because I'm like, oh, I wonder if I hear something, explosion, gunshot, yelling, car crash. You never know. Like there's all kinds of reasons they could evacuate. And my first thought was, but my chicken, it's like right there. I mean, it's right there. Then I thought, I'm an idiot. I'm leaving. No, like, I don't know what this is. They look concerned. So I walked up to them and said, can I go that way? And pointed the opposite direction that they were kind of starting to shoot people. And they said, no, absolutely not. You got to go this way. Oh, this exit. And then I was like, okay, they didn't even think about that for a second. There's something going on that direction, which was the direction of the hotel. Also, the parking garage. It was kind of both. So I wanted to evacuate, double quotes, to the parking garage because, one, that's where all my weapons were. I definitely didn't have a concealed pistol on me because they have a sign that says no weapons, and I always obey those. But yeah, I mean, rifles and shotguns in the car, let's go, just in case something's going down. Plus, if there's an evacuation where we're going to go stand out in the, parking lot for 30 minutes, especially without my chicken, because I mean, I'll go stand out there with chicken and fries, okay? I'd rather just jump in my car and be like, oh, I was just on my way out. Because I was like, damn, dude, I've been here for like 6 hours. Kind of want to get home and get some YouTube editing and stuff done. So, well, they're like, no, you got to go this way. So I'm like, oh, I guess we're going this way. And the kitchen staff was already evacuated. I'm like, oh, there goes my chicken. And lesson number 1. A bunch of the people that the security guards were talking to were like, oh, what? Why? What's going on? All these questions. No, this is not the time for questions. They've got like 5 or 6 people trying to evacuate, probably 500 people. It was a Saturday, I think. Might have been a Friday. I don't remember. They're trying to get people out and spread the word as quickly as possible. The music's still going. All the sound effects and crap on the slots are still going. There's a lot of noise. Even if they made an announcement, you can't tell what the heck they're saying. So they're going person to person. Now, eventually people saw a lot of people walking past them. Now, I got way ahead because, one, they're not going to move faster than the slowest person, and there's a lot of people in their 80s and wheelchairs with the oxygen and you never know, a lot of old folk. You guys know the casino demographic. So the security guards, knowing what they knew, what they heard over the radio, they weren't going to leave those people behind them while they warned people ahead, or at least I think some went ahead, some didn't. It looked like they had rehearsed this. Everybody really did their jobs, but it did take a couple minutes. I think I was right by the doors by the time they remote killed all the machines, which that's kind of cool that they can do that just with the server. Press one button. Okay, they probably needed a supervisor and a password, but still. Just, remote locked every single machine so that people, actually listened. Killed the music, then they made the announcement. They said, hey, we're evacuating. Please make your way to the, I don't know, west, east, north, whatever, as if anybody has a damn compass. I've got an idea. Follow everyone else. But I had actually, a little bit before that, gotten past the guards because, they're, behind me getting the slow people up and helping them out. And so, I heard people asking what's going on, just generally to the people around them. So I stopped and I'm like, we're evacuating, go this way. And then just walk away. No questions, no, oh, what is it? What do you know? Oh, are you sure? Do I really have to? Is this a drill? If you just walk up sternly and unequivocally tell people this is what you do, and then just end of conversation, what is there left to do? And then you follow everyone else. It's kind of like group pressure when you're like, well, nobody else is sitting around protesting this. Ooh, I don't want to go outside. I want to keep gaming. What about my money? What about this? What about my coat and the coat check or whatever? Although I think it was had to have been at least spring. It was unusually warm out. Now, I wasn't jogging or anything, but, I was one of the first to find out, and I just walked faster than the old people. So I held the door open because, there's all these multi-doors and people are all shuffling with their, walkers and stuff. And I'm like, well, I'm not saying, oh, I'm such a saint and a hero. Look, if I heard gunshots or heard an explosion and smelled smoke, bye. Maybe I'd give it a little longer if it was just smoke or something. It would have to be a direct threat to my safety. Other than that, it's well, might as well help people because I didn't see a clear and present reason to get out. Now, if it was a bomb threat or something, or somebody with a vest strapped to them, you don't get much more. It's the boom and that's it. Maybe you might get out before the ceiling collapses. That's about it. So maybe not the smartest thing to do, but I mean, what are the odds it would be that? You know what I mean? Now, I hate to say it, but another good lesson is, the initial thought when any kind of alarm goes off, which really one didn't, but we knew we were being evacuated. But like I've stayed in, 400 hotel stays in my life just for my other business. And we've had the fire alarms go off at least 5 times that I can remember. All different places, all different reasons. Usually somebody smoking, sometimes just a defect, somebody pulling it as a prank or accidentally catching their luggage on it, or we never found out. But yeah, I mean, the staff comes through because everybody sits in their rooms. They go, well, it's probably a false alarm. I don't smell any smoke, so I'm fine. Okay, go stand out in the parking lot for 5-10 minutes and like dick around on your phone. Like seriously, when your life could be at stake, what are you doing? Get out. There's no, maybe. There's no think about it. So the hotel staff comes through, like the managers and the top level people, they just go sweep room to room to room, tell people, go, 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 go. We got to get out. We don't know why this alarm is going off. Just for our safety, got to go stand outside for a little bit. And everybody whines and complains because people are idiots. Don't be that person. But that's why they're like, absolute grouchy, unfriendly, barking out orders, let's go. Not like, hey, we'd like you to go outside, where now it's a conversation. Now you can feel free to debate them. No. So if you're in charge of something, you probably already had training on this. If you didn't, what the heck is your company doing? You should bring up that you should have training on this, but that's how you handle it. Just absolutely, there is no option. Do this. The end. End of conversation. I'm moving on. Go outside. But I mean, when you hear a fire alarm, what do you think? Oh, the building's on fire? No. If you don't see smoke and you don't smell it, you don't see fire and you didn't hear an explosion and you don't see people running, you're like, must be, every other drill from high school. Must be every other time I've had one go off in a building. Must be some jerk pulling it as a prank. It doesn't matter. Get outside. Don't be that person. So eventually, we all got outside and, we're standing around and everybody starts telling rumors because it's been like a whole, 2-3 minutes. I have no idea, but very short amount of time. And already people are like, I heard it was this. I heard it was that. Every single person was wrong. I wasn't like, oh yeah, who'd you hear that from? Like I'm going to be confrontational. I don't believe you. I was just like, oh yeah, it could be. And it could be is exactly what you should say, because I heard other people where they're like proposing theories where they're like, oh, well, if they're doing this and it's this drastic, I bet it's this. And then people who just want to grasp onto anything because like that's what the human brain wants to do in these situations is, oh, well, I don't know what's going on and that scares me. Oh, this person said something that makes sense. So even though they presented it as just not even a theory, not even evidence, but just a random blind guess based on almost nothing, it makes sense to me. So I'm going to nod and say, keep walking. And then when I get to the next person, I'll say, hey, I heard it was this. And I heard some stuff, and that's just how things travel in a crowd. That's human psychology. So don't be the, that makes sense person. Be the, oh, it could be person. Because then you're not being confrontational like, oh, yeah, prove it. Oh, who'd you hear it from? I don't believe you because that's, it's a stranger. They're just going to walk away. They're just going to be like, who's this guy? But if you just go, oh, it could be that, then they're like, oh, yeah, wait, I probably should stop and question that. It's like the polite way to say it. I had somebody walk right up to me after a couple minutes because they saw that I was talking to random people trying to, look, listen, talk to as many people as possible and, see if I could get some information. So they saw me talking to the most number of people and not looking, confused. And so they walked up to me and said, do you know what's going on? Which that's smart. Look for somebody who looks like they know what's going on, or like a staff member or anybody with a radio communication device. For the time being, I should say the staff, the security and any other, dealers and managers and all those people, they weren't talking to the people because they were trained to not tell people what's going on. I can see reasons for that because it would have made people panic, and I can see reasons against it because I wanted information to keep myself safe. Now, are most people as well-trained and logical, tactical, and like they've ran through these scenarios in their head and seen thousands of hours of police footage online? No, probably not. So people will walk up to them and they're like, we don't know, or we're not ready to disclose it yet, or something like that. I think I heard one of them specifically say, can't say yet. Which, is it that you're not allowed to say and you do know, or you can't say because you don't know? It's a vague statement, and then they would just like walk away and keep, herding people away from the building. Very, very, very smart. I mean, seriously, these people had some serious training. I'm making that assumption, but I can't imagine after I've seen absolutely botched evacuations in footage on YouTube that they didn't have this coordinated ahead of time and practice it regularly. So when the person walks up to me and they're like, do you know what's going on? I wasn't about to say, I have absolutely no idea, because then that just stresses people out more. But then I thought, well, I was about to say, I heard from one person this and one person that. And I just said, I heard a couple guesses, but I don't think anybody really knows. And security isn't telling people. Just quick, concise, there it is. And as much as I was like talking with people, I was equally listening hard, listening for anything in the distance, kind of tuning out the people and the talk and getting away from like the densest areas and kind of getting to the edge to listen, see what I could see. Are there sirens? Are there is it fire truck honking or is it, police sirens? Because those mean two different things. I mean, there's an airport across the street. I was looking there to see if that's why we were being evacuated because of a plane crash or a malfunction or a fire. You never know. I was just looking around to gather data. So don't just tunnel vision or just totally switch off and you're like, I don't know, and just like kind of get into this mental panic without outwardly panicking because you won't be thinking about the things that you need to think about. So, I mean, maybe it's just because also on top of, just kind of mental and cognitive training and like drilling it into my head, just like, this is what you do, this is what you do. I've also regularly worked security at multiple different places, music venue, really large get-togethers. Like we're talking like 10,000 plus people, not like, family gathering. So the whole, eyes open, look around. If you don't know what's going on, you better find out what's going on. That's in my head too, because I've lived it. I've been there. It's not just I'm mentally prepared for it. I've just already done it, so that's just where I go. And I think having that mindset is smart. That's why I would go look up at least a couple scenario videos on YouTube wherever you can find them about like shootings, robberies, store owners defending themselves and like when they drew the gun, why they did, how they like controlled distance and then disarmed the person, then did make a firing decision or didn't, then, they chased them, but they shouldn't have because they're fleeing and that might be legal gray area. All that good stuff is really good to know. But almost equally important is none of that matters if you just totally shut down mentally. You got to be mentally prepared for it. You got to be really tough. Like you got to be a little bit desensitized, but also I've never been in the military, but I know a lot of people that have been. Every one of them will say in combat training, we learned to just switch it off. It's like, yeah, you're not going to not panic if you're getting fired at, but you're not going to turn into a whimpering pile of tears, probably. Depends on your personality. That ain't me. But, they say you just fall back on your training. They say just focus, switch it off, and just switch to procedure. And I don't know what all goes into that, but like I've kind of developed that just by, this, that, and the other thing. It's about confidence. It's about, I know the knowledge. I've seen these scenarios. I know how to use my self-defense items. I know how to do not disarmed, unarmed stuff. Okay. Now like in the back of my head, I don't need to panic because I'm well off. I'm as prepared as I'm going to be within reason. And once you get to that place, you're going to find yourself handling these situations way better. So nobody was really panicking. Some people, the real like type A, like maybe some military people, it was younger and it was male. I mean, I hate to kind of stereotype that, but some people were just like, okay, I'm not going to be well, nobody else is running, so I'm not going to be either. I'm going to be the guy getting the hell out of here. So eventually when we were outside for like second time, I'll catch back up to the story. I'm getting ahead of myself. They just bolted into the woods. And this was before we heard the gunshots. That was just when they were like, I think they overheard one of the security people talking or their radio, I forgot which it was, saying that the suspect was outside. And they're like, wait, that's where we are. Bye. And I don't blame them. I mean, it's a tactic. We had word later that the person themselves had made a run for the woods, and that's when the police absolutely lit him up. And that's what I thought happened until months later when I saw the footage. Even into the night, that's what everybody said is he made a run for the woods and the cops took him out because he still had a gun. It was completely different than that. But I thought, yeah, I mean, good for them taking action, not being like, well, nobody else is running. Nah, like, let's go. But if you don't know where the danger is, I mean, okay, cover's better than just we're standing out in the middle of the parking lot. But I will say some people kind of got to the edge of the crowd and they're like, I got kids. I got to get home. The babysitter's calling. I'm just going to make a run for the woods because nobody's going to stop me. Now, if police haven't apprehended the suspect yet, or even slightly after it, some people kind of snuck off to just, circle back and get their car and whatever else went on. Maybe don't go running through the woods, because then we had reports that the police were looking for second and third people involved because they saw people running into the damn woods who I had heard were given a harsh talking to afterwards. It was just like, hey, can you not go running into cover when we don't know if you're involved or not? They're just like, my own safety, I'm out of here, bye. Turns out it wasn't so safe in the parking lot after all, and they had a point. So it was just kind of one of those, okay, whatever. So do or don't be the first person to run when you get the first inclination that something serious is actually going on and it's not a false alarm or just a fire or whatever. Maybe, but this was like right around the time police were rolling up. So, and then ongoing. A lot of people made a run for it all night, really. So anyway, we're all outside and we're out there for a very short period of time. And then we're told to go back inside but not go too far because people could just start stealing chips. You know, some of them were left on the table. I could just go to anything with a credit and hit cash out and be out of there real quick. So we had to kind of stay in the first couple feet of the casino or in the, between the doors in the vestibule. Then they got on the radio and told us to go outside again because the person was still inside the building. They had thought that he left, but they had located him. I guess they thought like us out in the parking lot with no cover was stupid. They heard he was not heading towards the casino, may have been heading towards the parking garage, I believe it was, which is kind of like between inside and outside, but then I guess they got word that he wasn't out there or something. I'm not even sure if that was correct, if I matched it up to the, the footage I saw later. So they didn't really know what was going on or where he was or if there was secondary people. So they thought, well, we might as well at least get the people to cover because, this sounds like a mass shooting. Like, as far as they know, that's what it was because multiple people had been shot. We had multiple casualties already at that point, and I think they were aware of that over the radios. So then they got some kind of updated intel, and we all were back out in the parking lot again. And we're like, okay, that's interesting. And I think they said that, was it that time or the second time? This was a while ago, but one of the times they said stay at least, so many feet away from the building, and the police came through and really yelled at people. So I think actually that was the second time. I think the first time they said stay close. Or maybe I heard that from someone in the crowd. I mean, there was so much misinformation. People were just kind of doing whatever. Rumors were spreading, and nobody really knew what was going on or what to do. Because you don't hug the wall if it's a freaking fire or a bomb or a gas leak or a chemical spill or anything else, a grease fire in the kitchen. So some people, like some honestly Karen-type personalities a little bit, or just, old people who don't like walking, were like, oh, we're in, we're out, we're in, we're out. They should make up their mind. And I just about told them to their face, like, we're doing this based on updated information. They're not going to be like, well, we're outside, there's a shooter outside, but we already told the people go outside, and we'd feel awfully silly telling them to go back inside. They thought it was, just confused idiots who didn't know if we should be inside or outside and didn't know what was going on, and they're just making it up as they go. So like, okay, cool. I knew better than that, but that's because I was looking, listening, walking, asking people what's up, asking if they saw anything, walking near the security guards to overhear what they were saying into the radios. In fact, I was one of the first people to hear them say, oh, back inside? Okay, we'll get him back inside. And I'm like, I'll hold the door again. I was like the first one there. I'm like, okay, I got the intel. Let's go. Because developing situation, and I was a little bit concerned. I mean, I'm one to keep calm because panicking and, fast heart rate doesn't do anything for you. But yeah, a little bit of adrenaline, just because you don't know what's going on. But there was the social pressure from people around you to not act out. You always feel pressure to act like everybody else is acting. And kind of be like, oh, everything's fine. Because if you're the crazy person going nuts over it and losing their minds and crying, and it's like, well, we don't even know what's going on, people are going to look at you and be like, well, look at this person. They can't handle themselves. And then you'd be thoroughly embarrassed. And they say that one of the most powerful forces on earth is social pressure. Being embarrassed in public or being singled out, if you're like a normal person with a normal functioning brain, they say it's more painful than getting kicked in the balls. It actually activates the part of your brain responsible for pain and injuries. Because that's how society works. If you didn't care about what others thought about you, society would just collapse. So it's like a survival thing at a very base level in your brain, in case you're wondering. But see, you got the more trained people. You got the cops. You got the ex-military, security people, firefighters. Those were the ones that I bet went bolting into the woods as soon as they heard it was a shooting. Because everybody's walking casually and calmly and be like, I'm sure it's fine. And you're like, I'm out of here. Boom. Marathon jog to the woods. I'm hiding in the woods. Bye, stupid people. Well, people are going to look at you funny and think of, what's wrong with that person? They're like the only ones doing that. Boy, what a weirdo. But see, they're used to just I don't care what anybody thinks. I'm going to do what I need to do for the situation. They're like that break out of social pressure, break out of everything, normalcy bias, shut it off and just do what you need to do because they were trained that way. That's why I think it was a lot of 21 to 28-year-old males that are, typically military firefighters. It wasn't like a 50-year-old lady who was like, I have more life experience and I'm wiser than you people. I'm running to the woods. Idiots. So I know I spent a lot of time on group psychology and what goes on in crowds, but that's almost the most important takeaway here. So, okay, we're in, we're out. Let's continue the story. We're outside and they say, okay, go around this side of the building. So we're moving again. I think at this point, a lot of people went with it because they seemed really informed and they were they're all on the radios at once. They're like, okay, all simultaneously, they all heard the same message. Let's go around this side of the building. We're going to this side. This is where it's safe. And we're like, okay, something constructive. It sounds like they know what's going on. They're confident and we're going there for an actual reason. And when we all get out there, we're standing around for maybe a minute, not even that long, boom, gunshot. And everybody's they just freeze. And they look in the direction of it and look around to see, what you can see as you naturally do. I did too. And now see, I knew how far away it was because I've been to a gun range, you know what I mean? It wasn't, okay, the farmer, a mile away, 2 miles away is blasting off a shotgun because rats. It wasn't quite that far away, but I could tell. I'm like, well, I don't know if this is a pistol or a rifle. It definitely wasn't a shotgun. To me, it sounded like a pistol. And I would have put it at a couple 100 feet away. So I'm like, well, okay, I could get hit by a bullet from that distance, but I should have gotten behind a car the second I heard that first gunshot. Like, just immediately gunshot, don't think behind cover. But my brain knew it was that far away, so everybody's just kind of like, ooh, and I think a couple people ran. Oh, that's when at least 4 people made a run for the woods that I saw. You hear gunshots, you go. I mean, this just is what it is, but still. We didn't know where the shooter was, but we did have directionality. If you have 2 functioning ears, or like me, 2 somewhat functioning ears, you can kind of like bilocate it, and you're like, well, that was definitely on my left, So it was around the corner and on the other side of the parking garage, kind of. So I'm like, well, we got concrete, but he could have came running towards us. Turned out he practically did. I mean, like, even the cops' bullets it wasn't shooting him as he ran into the woods. It was coming towards us. Like, there was still a little bit of concrete and there was an angle, but we're talking maybe, I hate to even estimate, but 25 degrees off. I'd prefer to be 90 degrees or more away from, the angle of gunshots, thank you. Or actually not around live blind gunshots in a crowd that's in a parking lot with no cover. But I was kind of near the cars and I thought, okay, I'm at least going to walk over more towards the cars. I'm not going to be the drama queen, the only person diving behind a car because I heard one gunshot. And then I thought, well, why the hell am I not? But still, in the moment, I was like, I'd rather see what's going on. To me, just with who I am, I'd feel more comfortable spotting the threat and doing something about it than hiding from it because I don't know where it is, if you know what I mean. Because, to stress, I definitely didn't have a pistol on me because that would have been against the rules. But if I somehow magically did teleport one onto my belt, I was the only person in the crowd that could have returned fire, including the security guards, who I'm pretty sure are unarmed. And one-handed, I could hit somebody who's running at 50 yards, I guarantee it. Let alone, braced against a car hood, taking a very cautious shot at somebody who doesn't know that I'm shooting at them. So yeah, the guy actually was kind of heading our way, and the police gunshots were a little bit closer. So when those started popping off, I was already kind of like within touching distance of the car. I got behind it. Didn't even wait for the gunshots to finish. And everybody's still looking around. At that point, I yelled at everybody around me, get behind a car, and pointed towards like myself and the engine. Because I got behind a Dodge Charger engine because it was the biggest one. I wasn't just walking towards any car. It's not going to hide behind a Prius and get, a jet of lithium flames because, stray bullet. No, you sit behind the Charger and watch the Prius go up in flames and then take pictures. So with that many gunshots going off, I was like, okay, lots of targets, lots of gunshots, lots of people, no cover. This could be bad. Because we all knew it was a shooting event by the time we were outside the second time, because that was kind of the group consensus with actual evidence stated this time instead of guessing. Remember, some of the people were there all the time and they like knew the staff and they're just like, okay, what's really going on? And then they're like, don't tell anyone. They're like, okay, I'll only tell the 15 people around me. So word travels fast and eventually the truth comes out if there's enough evidence. Otherwise, it's all just rumors. And yeah, the crowd might settle on one thing, doesn't mean it's right. But people were like, okay, I literally talked to the staff and they told me this was a shooting. And so we're like, oh, well, okay, somebody shot somebody at the bar. Somebody, was in the hotel, restaurant, whatever. And then we heard the gunshots outside. I'm like, okay, mass shooter, let's go. Get behind the cars. This ain't dicking around time. Now it's serious, but everybody just kind of froze. I'm like, you do realize, people, you're not behind cover. I don't think all these like 60-year-olds played a lot of video games, you know what I mean? So like even the concept of cover, they're like, what's that? Unless they were in Nam or something, or Korea, I don't know. Not to rule out Bosnia or anything. I know somebody who was there. I don't care if we had the damn Hutu uprising. Get behind a car, seriously. So I wouldn't say I like yelled at the top of my lungs, get behind something, but just like to the people around me, I somewhat firmly and somewhat loudly told them. And about 8 people saw me and were like, oh yeah, snapped out of it, reacted, got behind a car engine. There you go. A lot of people just naturally, they put 2 and 2 together, and after kind of staring and they didn't see anything for a couple seconds because everybody's like, loud noise, gunshots, I need to know what's going on so I can react to it. And without, a couple seconds of just standing there and I have no information, then it clicks with people, well, I should at least like hug the wall or run. And so, yeah, a lot of people run. They got further away. A lot of people got behind cars. I'd say about 80-90% of people did that. A couple people were still just kind of locked up and frozen, didn't know what to do. And I wouldn't say like panicking and oh my God, they were just like, they just didn't know what to do. And they were just at such a position that they were looking, towards an empty space where the gunshots came from instead of seeing the people around them, even in the periphery, all take another action. So people were yelling at each other a little bit. And really, 30 seconds to a minute later, people were just back to, okay, well, I bet that was them taking out the shooter. And I said, yeah, I bet. And we were talking about, what caliber, how far away was that? Do you know anything about guns? And we're kind of exchanging intel, peeking over the hood. And I don't remember exactly what happened after that. It's not like we were hiding behind the cars for like 30 minutes. It was pretty brief. I think they kept walking us around the building. I think the police told one of the people who had a radio that's on like the casino staff frequencies, well, okay, one shooter's down because, yeah, those 30-some shots took him out. But they didn't know. They just rolled up. They had no idea what the motivation was. None of that. They hadn't talked to the staff and be like, yeah, I recognize this guy. Oh, yeah, he just got fired, which is what had happened. Plus some charges. He got some charges from another employee and then got fired because of it. And, yeah, it sounds like he did do the thing he was accused of, and now he was pissed. He was going to go get revenge on him even though it was all his fault. Just disgusting human being. Horrible. I don't think he intended to or actually did shoot anyone just random, but I think he was really mad at one or two people and then just started shooting at random staff members. So just scumbag. That's why I would still classify this as a mass shooting. He wasn't after us, but like, who knows? He also wasn't suicidal and didn't take his own life. He tried to sneak out. He tried to act like, oh, what's going on? I'm just walking, until, well, they're on radios and they gave the description. Hell, I think some people were like, it's literally, insert name here. And they're like, okay, I know him. So anyway, none of that information was known to police. They just know, okay, one person is down, multiple casualties, lots of gunshots. Is this terrorism? Is this, a mass shooting? Is this coordinated? Is this an attack? Is this Antifa? I mean, who knows? Even cops, they like to jump to conclusions a lot. I think that's the number one problem with cops right now. But they are trained to not just be like, oh, look at that skin color. Well, it's not terrorism. Look, 9/11 was a while ago, and even like it's like 5%, but still, Irish brothers like to blow stuff up occasionally. There's people blowing up 5G towers. There's just mentally deranged people that knows no color, age, or gender. So if you're like, oh, it's just some fat white guy. Oh, must have been a lone gunman. No, it could still be, some Antifa soy boy douche that's, getting offended on behalf of black people, because that's almost more likely in the exact year that this went down, just saying. So they don't just say, oh, I'm sure that was the only shooter, because very loose, conclusions, stereotypes, bad information. It's basically, until you swept the whole building, active crime scene, potential active ongoing shooting. There may be accomplices. It could have been a robbery. Think about that. It was a casino. Who the hell robs a casino by themselves? Now, they probably had heard the shooting occurred outside the casino, but it may get a little, muddled because they get there as quickly as possible. All the radio chatter, they just hear casino and they're like, oh, I wonder if it's a robbery. In that case, it could be 10 people. They have no idea. But yeah, we saw the police roll up while we were out in the parking lot the second time, and they got there quick. And we're just seeing one after another, and then we heard the gunshots. And I think it was mostly just squad cars, but then like a couple minutes later, the real heavy stuff started coming in, like SWAT, armored vehicles. Because, they're sweeping. They're going room to room in the hotel, which was also evacuated simultaneously. The casino, they're checking behind every machine. They're looking for IEDs. They're checking the bathrooms. They're checking the ceilings. These are like the trained people, but even just the regular deputies are trained in this kind of stuff. So eventually we all got onto like the front lawn, because that was the furthest away from like the crime scene, because the guy was near the parking garage and I thought was briefly in it and exchanged some gunfire, or at least like one round went inside the parking garage, so they had to take a photo of it, which was solely and exclusively responsible for me not getting my car back that night at all. Spoiler alert, I'm still kind of pissed about that. But yeah, we spent hour and a half on the front lawn, and it was like 67 out, which is virtually room temperature. If you do Celsius, like what, 28, 29? Oh my God, I'm way off. 19.4. But it was dropping because, it's getting to be sundown. And now we're all just bored out of our minds. We're kind of hungry. Some people are thirsty. Some people need their insulin, this whole thing. It was a crowd of people that was all made to go somewhere. And a lot of people had to pee. A lot of handicapped people, complaining about stuff. Their wheelchairs getting cold and condensation, or they left their oxygen inside, or, this ain't no, Hollywood movie set where everybody who walks outside is some like healthy 22-year-old in perfect condition, looking great, and their hair is perfect, okay? We had issues 10 minutes later where people are like, I need to go back inside because this. And it wasn't just like, oh, I forgot my purse. It was like, my medicine is in there. I dropped my inhaler, you know? So they're just like, well, how long can you go without it? Because it's still really dangerous to go inside because we don't know if there's a second gunman. Not just like liability, like, oh, you get shot, you might sue us because we said, yeah, go back inside. But like, you never know if somebody was involved, if they stowed a weapon, if they want to start shooting again, if there's a secondary person like a plant in the crowd. What if they're a silent accomplice and want to hide evidence? You know, what if they just want to steal other people's money? What if they left their purse inside, but really they didn't bring a purse and they just want to grab someone's purse? It's all the stuff where they just can't let people inside, but well, guess what? There isn't outside. Freaking anything. So very, very quickly, like 45 minutes to an hour later, the staff took a vehicle, big, you know, the biggest van they could get a hold of. I think it was one of the staff members' personal vehicles. They took it to Quick Trip because Wisconsin. I mean, the Quick Trip is like an extension of all of our kitchens. I think Quick Trip is actually the third most popular religion in Wisconsin. If you're like, what the heck is this? It's like a 7-Eleven, but actually nice. And they bought not just some of the Dunkers, the Choco Dunkers and other assorted flavors, but all of them. We were assured by the staff. It was all of them. So we got a van full of Dunkers, basically every drink that they could throw into coolers or just into bags. And they got back, but I mean, it's like, I don't even know where a Quick Trip would be in that city. We're out in the middle of kind of nowhere by the airport. But, you know, they drove into town, they got it together, loaded it up, paid for it with probably casino emergency funds or brought a manager, kept the receipt or whatever. I mean, this ain't the time for procedure. You just do it. That's where, if you're not the highest level staff, you just be like, should we go get these people some food and water? And they're like, yeah, go. Okay, I'll get reimbursed. Like, they're not going to not reimburse you. Yeah, those words just came out of my mouth. Spoiler alert, they never reimbursed me for my Uber trip home. Or the chicken, for that matter. Assholes, as if they don't have the money. I sent them an email with the direct attachment twice, inquired by phone, nothing. Absolutely nothing. Now, honestly, I think it was like an hour and a half later. It's hard to say by the time we actually got like snacks and stuff. I think it was around the time that they cleared the hotel people for reentry, which is good because there was a wedding reception. A bunch of people were there for a sports thing, and there was this big corporate gathering. So the hotel was absolutely packed. So they checked every room. They kind of put together a narrative of, oh, we could see, you know, why this guy would want to shoot up the place. Yeah, it was obviously a lone gunman, okay. But we're still going to, you know, bring the dogs, sniff for bombs, all that stuff. And they're like, okay, whatever, cool. It became like more dangerous to let the people stay outside than let them back into their own rooms. So they did it eventually. But boy, it could have been 2 hours later for all I know. I have a poor concept of time. It's not like I was checking the clock. We were all bored out of our minds. And I was on my second phone playing Pokemon Go because I could still get in range of their Wi-Fi. Yes, I'm one of the dirty duel players. It's for trades. It's a dummy account. Yeah, it's level 43. I don't care. Shut up. Yes, my main is 47. I play a lot. It's good for exercise. But yeah, they ended up walking us all to another building that they were able to like get into that was couple thousand feet away, maybe. I don't know, a bit of a walk. Now, the walk was really difficult for me because, let me back up, I have extremely severe allergies, like the worst you could possibly imagine. In fact, I'm allergic to some like silicones and stuff, and ibuprofen, dogs, cats, wood dust, mold, pollen, ragweed, and it had just rained for like 3 days straight, and then it was windy. And we were just sitting out there in a lawn with trees around in a forest. So my allergies were tripping right around, I don't know, 7, 8, 9 o'clock, whenever it was. So because, you know, prepper in case of emergencies, because I don't have an inhaler and I don't have an EpiPen, which I absolutely should. I just can't afford one. Hey, like and subscribe and watch more content on the channel if you want me to be able to afford an EpiPen. Woo! Welcome to America. Yeah, who am I kidding? Any money I make from this channel I use to pay my mortgage and electric bill. But I did have one of those little pill carriers, like the waterproof, you know, aluminum, little like keychain things with a full dose of Benadryl in it, which had probably been in there for 2 years and been banged around, the new revised edition after this. I keep padded with a little cut up paper towel. But I happen to know from experience from accidentally taking like 4-year expired Benadryl that it does still work and doesn't seem to turn into poison. I'm not saying do that. I'm just saying I did it a couple times and lived. So I was like, I'm going to be in more danger if I don't take this. So 1 half pill in chunks and then absolute powder. I was like, okay, I need something to take this with because it's so disgustingly bitter that I might actually throw it up or it would get caught in my throat because of all the jagged chunks from it breaking apart. So I wasn't about to dissolve it in my mouth, so I found one person in the crowd that had water on them. Shout out to fat guys who brought their car keys and parked out in the side lot. It was actually one of the people from the hotel because obviously our two crowds merged at one point. And he had a whole cooler. He had sandwiches, stuff left over. I think he was like camping or something with the fam. Or no, he said he was at the sports game. And I just walked up and I'm like, hey, look, weird situation. I know you got like one bottle of water there, but I need to take some meds and ain't nobody out here got water, dude. My throat's starting to get a little tight. I'm getting a little concerned, and I know it's going to be a whole bunch of drama and a mandatory trip to the hospital because of liability that I'm sure they won't reimburse me for. If I walk up to one of the paramedics that was obviously there taking care of people's health problems and stuff and say, hey, having trouble breathing because of an allergic reaction, they'll be like, oh shit, everybody panic, EpiPen in the freaking thigh. Get this guy to the hospital. I'm like, I just need to take some damn Benadryl. I didn't think they would see it that way. So I'm like, okay, that was my next option. Like I was about to walk over there if, fat dude didn't give me the water. And so he's thinking about it. I'm like, let's be fair about this. The fact that he's not just immediately like, oh yes, take it. Yeah, absolutely. Because we had been out there for a while, dude. Like at that point, probably at least 45 minutes to an hour at least. I'm like, okay, this guy's like, this is important, but he's probably, I could see the thoughts rolling around in his head. I'm not going to ask this guy, oh, well, you want to buy it off me? Because that'd be a dick move. But, is he even telling the truth? Is he thirsty? Is he just an asshole? When's the next opportunity? Like he's eating a sandwich. It might have been peanut butter. I'm like, I don't know about that. I think he had like half a bottle in his hand and then there was one left in the cooler. So he was considering that. And like literally after like 5-10 seconds, he's just like, I'm like, let me make this really easy. What if I offer you, I'm not going to say the dollar amount, but just keep in mind that I won $2,000. It was a very generous donation, much more than the cost of the bottle, but not like an insane amount. Whatever you're thinking, it's probably lower than that. Unless you're thinking $20. Oh, it was higher than that. I just wanted to be like, bro, go buy yourself something nice. Hey, make it worth his while, because, $5-10 he would have been like, oh, just keep it. Oh, whatever. If you're going to be that desperate to try and buy it off. But I immediately followed it up with, I won $2,000 today. I'd be happy to share it, just because, be such a nice guy giving me it. Like, I'm not like, oh, I'm that rich guy trying to buy my way out and get the last something in a crowd because I'm an asshole. And then just to prove it, I popped it open, unscrewed the pill thing, and took the pills right in front of him. He's like, oh, you got that right in your keychain? I'm like, yeah. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not just buying it because I'm thirsty. And I'm not just paying you because I'm rich, because I'm not, like... So I was just like, yeah, thanks. I mean, he wasn't the most like, oh, let's sit and talk guy. He was just, kept to himself. But, I thanked him. And then after taking the pills, I walked off. And then, 10 minutes later, I could barely walk a straight line because Benadryl. I could breathe, though. So anyway, yeah, we're doing the slow hike to the other building. And I am just about going right off the curb, dude. I am like... Bro, I don't even drink. I can't handle my drugs, I guess you could say. Benadryl's a little strong for me, apparently. So I'm just trying to keep it together. I'm sure everybody around me was like, oh, sucks for him. He must have been on his 8th beer. So we get there, and I'm just like sitting on the curb, like, oh, I'm just going to sit down. Now, I also kind of had like an ongoing knee thing and like a little bit of a foot injury, too, that I was dealing with. Little ladder related injury. I really hate steel ladders. So that just made all this more fun. That's another thing, is you might not be in peak physical condition when, the worst day of your life. I wouldn't even phrase it that way, but potentially it could have been really bad, very stressful situation. When that arises, you might, even just today I almost broke my damn toe again right before recording this. That's actually why I'm recording this, because I can't get up and do anything I need to do around the house. What if there was a home invasion right now? That's not when you want to like leave your gun next to the toilet because, oh well, loosey-goosey, oh, I'm in my PJs. No, this thing stays within reach at all times, because the time it's not near you will be the time when you have a nearly potentially broken or sprained foot or toe or whatever the hell I just did. And then, oops, the gun's all the way in my bedroom. Oh, I guess I'm getting shot or robbed. But on the flip side, I'm not saying, oh, you got to go full Batman belt everywhere you go. I was keeping it pretty light. I tend to not let my phones under any circumstances get below 50%. And obviously if I'm going somewhere, I've got my second phone on me in case I'm, bored out of my mind and stuck somewhere waiting for something or whatever, stuck in a traffic jam and want to dick around in Pokemon Go. And also because even since it's an out of service phone, obviously it's my old phone, it'll still dial 911. And within Wi-Fi range, it can still get on either someone else's tether too, on their phone broadcasting, or on a building's Wi-Fi in case I'm stuck somewhere, my first phone gets lost, broken, stolen, whatever. In fact, I would keep your old phone, if you have one, in your car. That's probably the best place for it. I keep it in my pocket just because it's relevant. I play Pokemon Go every day. Was not a bad idea. Now, see, what was an issue is people's phones were, they walk into the casino, they're at like 18%. Oh, well, there's no signal in here, probably. Who am I going to call? It's fine. I don't leave my gas tank below 50%, and I don't leave my phone below 50%. If I do, I've got small, mid, and large size battery packs. One of them's going in my pocket with a short loop cable. Or I charge it before I leave, or I charge it on the way there, or, usually since I charge it every day and start every morning, at 100%, if I'm the one who drove it down to, 40%, I'm going to do something about that before I even have to leave to go somewhere, or I'll wait to leave to charge it. Or like I said, I'll charge it in the car on the way there. These people should have done that. So I probably borrowed my phone, because it was that 92% at that point, to 4 different people. And all of them were much, much older than me, because those were the only people who remembered the numbers by heart, because they remember having to dial them by heart. So memorize your close family and friends' numbers in case your phone is out of commission. People ran their batteries down to 0 and they're like, oh, I still have one person to call. Oh, crap, I need to call a cab. Oh, crap, I need, this. And I drove it all the way down with a 20-minute conversation with my, sister or whatever. Or it died while it was in their pocket because they left an app running, which don't do that. But yeah, a lot of people without their phones, and those people look the most panicked. And they just saw me dicking around with 2 phones at one point that I'm like, oh, wait, I should reserve the battery. Like, I could literally just sit there and run, like, YouTube for 8 hours on it, and I'd be fine. And I'm like, I'm sure we'll be out here in 2. But I thought, well, just in case. It just seems like a poor time, no matter how bored I am, to do that. So I'm only going to run down the battery on my second phone. Because like I said, we're still in Wi-Fi range and there's still Pokemon, so, So another takeaway, memorize a couple numbers for like your own emergency contacts. In fact, don't just, it's quarterly, it's a holiday, it's going to do the smoke alarms today because it's Thanksgiving, but I'm also going to review all my emergency numbers and check the expirations on the stuff in my fridge and all my medication. It's like, no, literally, every time I call my brother, yeah, he's a contact in my phone, I dial the number. Every time I call my parents, I dial the number. I don't use the contact. Every time. Now, I'm 34, so I'm old enough to remember just manually dialing stuff. And of course, like, almost nobody's changed their numbers. And even like my friends in high school, I still know their numbers by heart. But I will say, people I've met lately, I have no idea what their numbers are. But see, they're not important. They're not family. They're just like, oh, friends, whatever. But my family was sleeping, so I was trying to arrange a ride home potentially. Like, I was on the phone with my parents, at least as soon as we knew we were clear and we made it to the second building. And then I just, jumped on Facebook, told everyone I was okay, and then, whatever. That's all I needed to do, really. And then obviously, since still like the police and people, they were interviewing people, but they didn't have time to have 1,000 people literally walk out to them and say, what happened? What happened? What happened? I need details. Well, no, you don't. You don't need anything. The police told you everything's settled, it's safe. We're just checking stuff and, just whatever. We'll tell you when we got information. So it's the 21st century. What do? You whip out your phone and you go check out all the local news stations. They've got police scanners. They've got, dispatch people who will send a little text saying, hey, something's going down. There's a big story. Funny thing is, I don't know if the news ever showed up there. I don't know if I ever saw them unless they were closer to the building than we were allowed to be. But yeah, we got donuts, we got drinks, and we all met over at the other building. Only the staff was allowed to go inside initially because they were being interviewed by like the police and saying anybody sees something, anybody knows something, here's the details, here's the story. And then they still didn't tell people in the crowd because they're just like, why? Like, it's just going to make us all more distraught, panic, sad, want to know who it is, ask more questions, be more uneasy. They're just like, let's get these people home, which, yeah, doesn't mean we weren't all on our phones gathering around that, looking up information and telling other people in the crowd. So right around 9:30, 10 o'clock, the city buses had shut down their routes for the day. It might have been like 10:30, I don't remember. It was getting pretty late. We were just out there just bored out of our minds. The sheer boredom and the nothing. Ugh, unbelievable. So they brought over the buses to take us to the closest elementary school, I believe it was, to sit in their gym where the Red Cross had showed up and set up their whole operation with food, emergency supplies, that kind of stuff. So shout out to them, support them. If they're even vaguely near your community, they will drive. In fact, I think they were like 30 minutes away, but they were like, they get the call. It's almost in the middle of the night at that point, and they're like, we're going. So they get the couple vehicles, and they get the passenger vans, the equipment, the paperwork, the everything, and they get the emergency food and they go. So we had granola bars, fruit snacks, chips, drinks, everything. That's what they showed up with. And then the police, gathered everybody around and they're like, hey, okay, you can go here. It's your option. They cleared the outside parking lot too. And then people who were staying at the hotel could go back in the hotel. So we lost like 2/3 of the crowd. But the last couple hundred people, I would say, that were still out there, maybe like 200, they were going, by bus to the school, and everybody's like, well, why would we go there? And they're like, well, just because it's warm. Like, it was like 61 degrees at that point, and it was starting to get a little chilly. I didn't have a jacket, but I'm just a warm dude. And they just said, okay, we don't know when they're going to clear the parking garage, because this was like all parking garage people left over pretty much, or people who like got a ride there, whatever. They said, if you can arrange a ride, either meet them at the school or meet them here, whatever you want, or just leave call a taxi, do whatever you want. Everything's unlocked, you can leave. Do talk to the police if you saw anything significant though, because they, want that. But otherwise, just go to the school to hang out. Sit down, because we couldn't really sit down anywhere. Everything was kind of wet and dewy, or uncomfortable low concrete. There were no chairs out there. And they said, we can bring you back if the parking garage gets cleared. Otherwise, that's where we prefer to have people instead of just standing around the parking lot, especially if you're going to, call a cab, get an Uber, go to a different hotel, whatever. And so I was on the fence. I'm like, do I just go tell my parents? Because I was in contact with them. They're like, just let me know if you need a ride. It's a hell of a drive. But they were technically still awake because I contacted them soon enough that they hadn't gone to bed yet. And then I thought, well, as I think about it, I'm going to let all the old people go first because they're the ones who need to use the bathroom. That was number one, is that's the only bathroom you could use. Pretty much I thought the old people need to sit down more than I do, although, pretty severe leg injury, unfortunately. I was, kind of walking funny. It hurt pretty bad that day. I mean, I probably shouldn't have been up and around, but, gun show. Plus the Benadryl, I'm like, I could stand to sit down, but it's mostly a temperature thing, and I was, kind of sitting on the sidewalk anyway, so I'm just like, I'll take, the last bus. So when, the third or fourth, shuttle came back, I was like, okay, well, let's go. I had heard a fairly confident statement from one of the police that they were pretty sure the parking garage would be open and we could just drive ourselves. So as soon as I got to the school gym, I was like, nah, go to bed. I'll be fine. So when I got there, they had everybody check in with their name written down on a piece of paper. That's what the Red Cross staff and some of the cops were there for. Mostly so that they don't just lose anybody in the school, I guess. So basically, if we leave, we're free to leave, obviously, but they just say then check out, because they want, 100 people to come to the school and then 100 people to leave. Because if 98 people leave, they're like, what's going on? So just, there wasn't a strong reason, but I could kind of see it, So I'm like, okay, well, they know what they're doing. Sure. Every single person they asked, did you see something? Okay, go that way. Did you not see something? Okay, go that way. Go sit in this row if you're this, or go sit in this row if you're waiting for the parking garage. Because then if they had to make an announcement just to people, that were in the parking garage, they could go talk to just them. So we were sectioned off and it was very organized. Plus, snacks. One complaint, holy crap, Red Cross, get it together. I mean, they did a great job. I actually know one of the people. I showed up and he's like, hey, and I'm like, hey, I haven't seen you in, 2 years. So this sucks. But anyway, yeah, they were super nice. I mean, it's great that they showed up. Fantastic organization. But my God, 0 battery banks and 0 cell phone chargers. Really? Didn't even have one in the vehicle. Come on, I need that more than food and water, for God's sake. Some of these people, when we got to the gym, 2 more people used my phone. They were calling family members and stuff. One of them, they were going through a translator. I mean, they actually should have told me. I speak fluent Spanish. I could have been the cell phone guy and the truscador. But yeah, they had phones on them, just dead battery, dead battery, dead battery. How did they not bring chargers? Even the police didn't have them in their cars. Didn't affect me, but damn. So anyway, I had told the last person I know to go to bed, and then I contacted 2 more when I heard at, I think about 2 a.m. that we're not getting back into the parking garage. I'm like, you do realize it's 2 a.m. Might have been 1 or 1:30. I don't know. It was so mind-numbingly dull that hours felt a lot longer, but then looking back, there's nothing that happened, so my memory makes it seem shorter, if that makes sense. So one of my friends had a car problem, and the other one was already very drunk, and those were the last 2 people responding to texts. So, and on Facebook and everywhere else, I'm like, I'm just trying to get a ride, and then I'm just like, well, the cops are dude, other people got rides, they got pickups, they got their friends, they went back to the place, they got a different hotel. There was maybe 30 people left, maybe 50 in the gym, I don't know, it's not like I counted them. And they were walking up to individual people saying, okay, what's your plan? Because there wasn't school the next day, but they didn't want people just sitting around till 8 a.m. and being like, oh, now I'll go do something, let's go to Denny's or whatever. So, I mean, we had people borrowing the cops' phones to try and get on hotels.com or something, see what's going on, call a cab. Then I'm like, you know what? I'll probably get reimbursed. I'm just going to take a dang Uber, which, let's just say I've never ridden for Uber, but I've driven for Uber, and I've actually driven that route one time. Somebody wanted to go that far, and I got paid a pretty penny, so I had a pretty good notion of what it would cost. And I was just like, well, one, I just made $2,000, and secondly, there's no way the casino wouldn't reimburse this. Multiple attempts, emailed them the receipt. They still won't, to this day, will not reimburse me. And I'm like, give me a minute. I'm going to try and, get something going on my phone. So he circles back and I'm like, yeah, I just signed up for Uber because, like I said, I've never used it, even though I've been a driver for 2 years. Never even had an account with the main app. Added a payment method, which the first one I added didn't work. And then I think I had to like add either PayPal or a backup debit card. So one, what if I didn't have my wallet on me? Or two, what if I only had my debit card and all my backup credit cards and stuff were at home, like in a safe or something? Or I do keep one in the car in case I forget my wallet when I, fill up with gas. So what if I wasn't able to get an Uber? Boy, that would have been a situation right there. Other people, like, they were literally on the verge of like breaking down, not because of, shooting, I've been out in a parking lot for 4 hours, I'm in the middle of a school and it's 2 a.m., but because, oh no, my phone doesn't work, or we don't have a hotels.com account, or we're not very technical, or we have no idea what to do and nowhere to go. And they're like on the verge of tears. I was just like, that's the emergency? Holy crap. Like you got a dead battery and you got to borrow a phone. You don't know any of your logins and can't get into your email to verify anything with two-factor. That's the emergency. Now keep in mind, sometimes that's the emergency. What if a fire or a windstorm or the thing takes out, the fiber line that runs your whole city? That happened to us once. Nobody had any connection of any kind. I think maybe phones still work. That was weird because it should be the same line. I guess there was some redundancy, backups or satellite or something. It was kind of slow, I'll tell you that. But, what if a cell phone tower just goes down? I don't know, some kind of like a crash. I don't know. Car, a bus, a train, I don't know. You don't have to think of the reason, just think, what if my cell phone doesn't work? Either because your cell phone doesn't work or because cell phones don't work. Well, now what? Now you're stranded somewhere. What if you're not familiar with the city? Because I sure as hell wasn't. What if you're far from home and all this goes down? What if it's not an emergency where you don't have like the National Guard and like the entire Red Cross showing up? FEMA ain't here yet, but FEMA ain't coming. Just saying. But like, everybody else in society is like, a couple hours till I got to get up and go to work. Everything's still going, but like you're having an emergency. It's like a localized emergency just because of circumstances, lack of communication. You don't have your computer, your desktop, your laptop in front of you. You don't have access to your car. You can't go anywhere. I mean, like, what if it was a pipe burst, took out your car and your phone was in it, and now you've evacuated to some unknown building and you have no way of contacting anyone? Like, that could be the emergency. And I mean, we started with like 100, 200, 300 people in that gym. I don't think the cops are like, oh, sure, I'll give you a ride home. They kept telling people, very, very limited space. Give us an hour. If there's like 8 people left, we'll do our best to bring you somewhere. But we can't guarantee it. My shift ends. We'd prefer you get a cab or something or work something out. Let us know if you can't work something out, but we'd prefer you work something out. And then they got like one of the dudes who came with the Red Cross to like borrow one of their vehicles to bring people to like hotels or the airport or a bus depot or whatever. But like, yeah, people were stressing at that point. I saw people more stressed out than when we heard gunshots. So it just, to this day, astonishes me that was the emergency. So the cop had asked me like, where do you need to go? And I'm like, this city. He's like, ooh. I'm like, yeah, it's far away. Yeah, I've probably got the biggest problem here. But other people were here for like some kind of sports game. They're from like out of state. And they just swung by the casino because it'd be fun. They were like, miles away from their hotel. And their car was stranded. That's why we were all there. So, boy, not a lot of services up and running. I was lucky this was a fairly like bigger city than even I'm used to. Something with some infrastructure, somewhere with some like 24-hour places or some cab companies that stay up past like, midnight. So there were some options if you had communications, and, it's not like people got a phone book. It's not like we had hard lines. Using the school's phones wasn't even an option. I don't think anybody brought that up because like a lot of the rooms were locked and stuff, and the offices too. So just, I'm really stressing this because like that was for some people the most stressful, dangerous like situation. Some of them were like, I'm diabetic, I'm just fat, I'm old, I'm tired, I fell asleep in my chair, now my back hurts, and now on top of it, we have nowhere to go. And that's why people were like starting to break down. So like if that's you, I mean, I was ready to like, I'm like, at least we aren't in the woods and World War III didn't start. I'll walk 3 miles somewhere, I don't care, except for my foot. So also I couldn't walk anywhere of any significant distance. Not only that, but I didn't really know where I was going. Of course, my phone worked with data, that's fine. But I thought, well, what am I going to do? Really like actually go sit at like a diner or something, a 24-hour place, Taco Bell, whatever, and then call my parents at like 7 a.m? That sounds awful. It was an option. It was the cheaper option, but I thought, I'll probably get reimbursed and I'm rich as of that night. Temporarily. So I'm like, I'll just take the damn Uber. So I told the cop when he comes back around, okay, I'm taking an Uber. It's to a really faraway city, whatever. And he's like, wait a minute. There's 2 other people here who also said they're going to that city, that area. This is the last lesson. They were lying. So I said, oh yeah, jump in. Like tell them, it's no problem. They're like, oh good. Cause they're like 70 and 75. They were friends. They like took a shuttle bus here or got a friend dropped them off or something, or their cars in I don't know. But like they want to get back to, their 2 apartments, which it turns out they didn't live together. They were just friends. And, they don't know how to use the Uber on the smartphone. I think one of them just had a basic flip phone, it was a damn jitterbug or whatever. And, you know, he said, yeah, they're not technical. They don't know how Uber works or any of that. So we're trying to work something out. And I'm like, oh, tell them to jump in. Yeah, we'll just, you know, what? It's like if they're in the same city, it'll add like $3. Like it would be stupid not to. And so he, I guess for privacy, didn't want to like disclose who they were. He wanted to be the intermediary. I don't know. I felt like that was a little excessive, but whatever. I remember some police reason for that. I don't know. Maybe he didn't want me to start demanding money from them or something. Or like, hey, yeah, you can ride with me, but it'll cost you double, or you got to pay for the whole trip. You know, get some little opportunistic scam going. Maybe. I mean, police distrust everybody, so maybe that's what it was. But they're like, yeah, we're going to insert the name of my city. What they actually meant was the one city over and the one city the other over. They doubled the price of my Uber. I know because I got in, it quoted the amount, and then we added the waypoints when they gave me their addresses, and I'm like, oh, that's nice. That's over $100. I still gave him like a $10 tip because that guy was pretty cool. I was just happy that anybody was working that night because, I mean, I didn't know. It was kind of big city, but maybe they're all doing the bar routes. We weren't near any bars. Maybe they go home and sleep at midnight. I don't know. This guy was super cool. Nice car, too. I would not have run that expensive a car in Uber, but I didn't tell him that. Although I did tell him I used to be a driver. And oh my God, these old ladies, they were the nicest ladies, but they straight up lied to my face about where they lived. I'm like, that's not even a insert name of my city here address. That's literally like 8 miles away. But, you know, they needed to get home. Somebody was offering a ride kind of that direction. All they had to do was tell me a little fib about where they live and then not give me the waypoint until we're in the car. And after that, they were back to being the nicest old ladies ever. They thanked me a bunch. They even offered to pay. They're like, well, we don't have any money on us, but I could run in and like, don't worry about it. And they're I'm like, dude, I made $2,000. Don't worry about it. They offered like 3 times. I'm like, okay, yeah, because they know they lied to me and they know they upped the price. Even when there's no bullets flying past anybody's heads, nobody's running for the damn forest, and nobody's freezing their ass off with no jacket on the parking lot. Even when we're sitting down in a nice school gym, if the pressure is still on, the nicest people will start to lie to you to get their way. When you see no other way out and then you see an opportunity, you grab it. You're not just like, oh, well, I don't want to inconvenience them. If they would have just told me where they lived, I would have been like close enough. I know it would have added money, but it's like, whatever. I'm a nice person. But another person would have been like, oh, I've got to get up at 8 a.m. It's already like 2:30 in the damn morning. No, we ain't making extra stops. Bye. So yeah, don't trust anyone. In any tense situation, not even just like an emergency, not like, oh, a tornado, a hurricane, a big thing, or even a small thing, or even when you think it's already over, still just second guess what people are saying. Because I was in like Mr. Nice Guy, super social, let's all be proper mode instead of, oh crap, there's people like breaking down, desperate, asking the police to borrow their phones, and people are like, this is still ongoing. I've had people get frantic when they're at like a music festival and like lose their wallet. They're like on the verge of tears because they got no way to pay. They don't know if somebody's actively stealing their credit card. They don't know if it was a pickpocket. They got no ID. You think those people wouldn't do absolutely anything grasping at straws to try and fix their situation when it's just a personal emergency? Yeah, just saying, do not take anybody's word for it. And that goes triple when they seem like a super nice person and they factually were nice people. Keep that in mind. When like food or medicine or clean water is what's at issue. You know what I mean? It got really real when I kind of thought back on this and I'm like, they actually just did that, didn't they? And I fell for it. Mr. Prepper, I'm going to be the, you know, don't trust anyone. And then all the social pressures and the, oh, don't dive behind a car. No, wait for more bullets to go whizzing by. Oh, still be polite when you don't know if people are telling the truth or not. Don't double check or, you know, just check up on everybody and just be in guarded mode. Just let your guard down even though it's still going on. That was so stupid. And luckily it only cost me like an extra $50-$60. Instead of like, oh, cost me getting robbed, getting shot, getting all my food stolen off me, getting a weapon pulled on me. I mean, stuff got crazy around Hurricane Katrina. That's the benchmark I always use for like a realistic recent thing. I suppose you guys are probably sick of hearing it. Sometime I probably should switch it up to like Hurricane Andrew or something. Hell, I think there was one this year. Oh, British Columbia flooding. That was like this week. Although I saw footage, those people were still weirdly polite about it. New Orleans, they were like shooting at police helicopters on the roof. Like, what the hell was that supposed to do? You guys work a little different down there, seriously. But man, people were stealing from each other at like the Superdome and stuff when they all met there to wait for FEMA to totally show up on time. So I'll kind of think about any extra lessons that I left out here that we could learn from the situation. But I think, you know, you can draw your own conclusions from the story and from the facts I gave. And just kind of, I really wanted to focus in on the major parts of this to put you there, to like put you in the situation. Imagine you were there, what would you do? Or what if it was slightly different? What if it was slightly bigger scale? What did I, the owner of a prepper YouTube channel that's a firearms expert with tons and tons and tons of tactical and like security training, what I did wrong, the fact that I did anything wrong, and the blind spots that I have where everybody's like, prepared for, they say, if you're prepared for a zombie apocalypse, you're prepared for everything less. Not really. Like last 2 years, who the heck was prepared for lockdown, stay in your house order, quarantines, but also you like still have to go to work? Like, oh, society's ending and it's a threat and there's a plague, but also you still have to pay your taxes. Who saw that coming? Who had that on their Armageddon bingo card? Like, who had, I'm stranded in the middle of a gym without my car and my cell phone's dead? Like, who had that on their bingo card? But the other 99% of people in the city are doing fine. Like, that's such a weird scenario, and yet it's more likely to happen than, oh, a tornado wiped out my entire city, there's no infrastructure, and my car got totaled. Because that, it's like, okay, light a fire, cook, take something out of the freezer, do this, do that, get your go bag, get a jacket, waterproof your stuff. Solar charger for your phone. Like, I'm all prepped for that. I wasn't prepped for this. Not entirely, but I'll tell you what, the Benadryl and the making sure my phones were always topped off and having a second phone, those were the 3 huge keys to this. I'm very proud of it. And to circle back, me just having the awareness to be like, I was literally the first person in the casino that didn't work there to realize something was going on just because of the body movements and the facial expressions of security 15 seconds after they got the thing on the radio that says evacuate. But man, I mean, I'm almost embarrassed to not know that like the Red Cross would show up to anything where a bunch of people are stranded outside with nowhere to go. Because I was like, well, this isn't an emergency, but like, it was an emergency. A bunch of people didn't have access to their cars or technology or food or anywhere to go or anywhere to stay. We were basically, it was like a refugee situation. We might as well just came right across the border. I mean, it's like, yeah, if anything, I was in denial. That absolutely was an emergency situation. Like I said, just because 99.99% of other people in the city were just fine and it didn't affect them and society kept on rolling, doesn't mean it wasn't 2:30 in the morning. Most places were shut down. We didn't have transportation. We're kind of out in the middle of nowhere in some like dinky little suburb outside the main city with no walking distance, and everybody was old and cold and needed medicine and sleep. Like, yeah, of course the Red Cross showed up with like all kinds of stuff. I mean, when I saw them and kind of heard about what they were doing, I'm like, oh, seems a little excessive. They're probably just worried about getting sued. And then I thought, well, not everybody, stays as hydrated as me, stays as healthy as me, although foot injury. Not everybody could just go walking 5 miles. Not everybody, has access to technology and has backup plans for the backup plans and went through all this in their head and, had like martial arts skills and anything else that might be relevant to an emergency situation. Some people are old, they're not used to this, they didn't train for this, and they needed the Red Cross there, just saying. A shame they didn't bring cell phone chargers. So anybody working or volunteering for the Red Cross, shout out. But yeah, don't be in denial about how bad the situation is. Just think, it could get worse. Things could cascade. You could be mildly injured. You could lose access to your medications, your car, your technology, your cell phone, your connection, power. These things could happen. And if they all happen at once, plus it's late at night, plus you're not in a very densely populated area, plus, you're not familiar with this, your friends are all sleeping, everybody's far away, all these things start to pile up, and it went from, I'm standing out in a parking lot, nothing of this affected me except for a couple bullets, okay, whatever. Wow, it's like camping, but without the tent or the RV, ooh. World's worst vacation, to like, oh crap, it's 2 a.m. and I got nowhere to go, oh crap, I'm out of options. So I really want to drill home that like, you're not as prepared as you think. And I never would have thought I'm going to be without this, and this, like this sequence of items, because I'm like, well, I can always get to my car. I can always use my phone. I always at least have this. At least I could walk somewhere like downtown in my city, or I could like do this or walk to my parents' house, get on a bike and ride there. Well, what if I'm away from home? What if? And then, oh, well, there I was. Luckily I pulled it off. Like I said, I almost couldn't get the Uber account to authenticate. And like send the 2FA and send the email thing, and then also I had trouble adding the payment method. It was closer than I'd like to admit. Now I'm resourceful and I'm used to staying up late. I mean, it's actually 5:33 in the morning right now and I'm not done editing this or recording it. I just tend to work nights. It's just what I do. So like if I had to go find a Walmart and walk around for 3 hours or hide in the bathroom for 2 hours and then 8 a.m. call my parents to get a ride, I would have done it. You find a path out and then you just single-mindedly move towards it. You don't panic or complain or say this is awful, because that's not constructive. You switch it off and you say this is the plan and this is what I'm going to do. And then you move forward one at a time, and no matter how overwhelming it is, you just take one step at a time. It's kind of like they say quitting smoking. You don't say, okay, as of today, I'm never going to smoke again, because that's going to be so mentally overwhelming that it just fails. Now, obviously, I wouldn't know, but I've heard that when they say, okay, I'm just not going to smoke on this smoke break. I'm just not going to have a cigarette with this lunch. I might fail. Tomorrow might be different, but right now I'm in a good enough state that I'm going to skip this one. And then you just slowly move your way away from it before you kind of get stronger, more confident, and you're like, yes, instead of just, never again. This is going to be so hard. Oh, look how much I feel bad now. I'm going to feel worse tomorrow. Overwhelming. It's like people who are stuck out in the woods. You don't usually hear the stories from the ones that gave up because they don't make it out. Well, you're lost in a state park or something, or you're injured or whatever. You think, okay, I'm going to find some wood. I'm going to start a fire. I've got a lighter. Or I'm going to try this. I'm going to try that. I'm going to climb a tree. I'm going to, try my cell phone up there. If that doesn't work, I saw some, edible berries back then. I'll hit that. Or I saw some water this way. I'm going to walk up to a higher point to do this. And then if that doesn't work, I'm going to do this. And you just think, okay, that's the plan. They think over, is there a better way? Okay, I'm going to do that. You can't just say, oh, this is too hard. Oh, I got to do this, then that, then that, then that, then that. And then it's still like narrow odds. Oh, dismay. Oh, discouraging. Oh, that sounds so hard. You just think, I'm going to do this first step. This is the plan. Focus on the first step. Then when you get there, focus on the next step. And that goes for any situation. I already had the plan, the backup plan, and the backup plan. And the backup was get a ride from a cop to a hotel if we can't verify that a place within driving distance is 24 hours. And my backup was just wait for sunrise and walk somewhere, which it wouldn't have come to that. Obviously they wouldn't have let it come to that. That's actually like dangerous. Like the cops wouldn't just let you be like, well, okay, bye. School's closing at 5. Have a nice day. Drive away. But like I said, I stacked up my plans. I was like plan Z. If my leg was healthy, it would have been like plan B. The B stands for I'm not going to bother the police. Other people are in a worse, state than me. But I didn't have a jacket. I knew, okay, I didn't have food because chicken, the long lost chicken. I wasn't 100% sure that I wouldn't, it was down to like 58 degrees according to my phone at that point. I wasn't 100% sure I could walk somewhere and actually stay warm. I was pretty confident, but not 100%. And yeah, I did munch down some of the snacks. I could have taken 2 water bottles with me and probably gotten a couple miles, but with my foot, no. So, these are the things you think about. If you know how far you can walk, then you know if it's a good plan. If you know you're injured or have some kind of physical limitation or, my allergy pills, the Benadryl was kind of wearing off at that point. That could have been a factor. So I'm like, okay, let's move that down the plan totem pole. Sit there and think. And now the other thing is, here's the reason I was kind of dicking around on my phone at the gym, because I just needed to take my mind off it. Because one, I was so mind-numbingly bored. But then the boredom, guess what I was thinking about? Worrying about my car, worrying about the staff, because I saw some staff crying when they found out what happened because they knew the victims. And I kind of knew some people who work there. And I'm like worrying about them, worrying about getting reimbursed if I take an Uber, worrying about anybody finding out I have $2,000 and trying to jump me. I'm worried about how much I paid for that first water when drinks showed up like an hour and a half later. I'm worried about getting my car the next day. You're just sitting there and you're just worrying and thinking, oh, that was bad. Now, what if it was even more traumatic? What if I saw the person get shot? I think I'd still handle it pretty well, but a lot less well than just, I heard some gunshots and then we walked around and I was bored. That's why the whole next week I didn't have dreams about it. I was just fine. It might as well have been nothing. But there's a lot of convincing yourself during it and after it that it was nothing when clearly it wasn't. I was just like, oh, inconvenience, good story, whatever. And I just got over it because it's just kind of my personality. And that's how I'm prepped for it. Now, if this was like, oh my God, I saw the gunman, he shot people right in front of me and I ran, I think I would probably be having more dreams about it. But see, here's the thing. Okay, traumatic experience, doesn't matter what it is. The best time to treat PTSD is before it happened. In my opinion, the traumatic event. This is not medical advice. I'm not a psychologist or psychiatrist. I've just heard from multiple sources, and for me personally, this works. Have that mental toughness where you just, it's your perception. Okay, it all comes down to your perception. That's the best way I'm going to summarize this, or we're going to go on a 30-minute PTSD rabbit hole here. I wish I could because it's useful, but it's, getting off topic. But if you're involved in a really bad situation, a shooting, and now all the time you're like, everything's shooting, and you go somewhere, you hear loud noise, and you're like, oh, gunshots, it's like really affecting you because some stuff like that can really get in your brain at a very deep level. But here's the key. When you have dreams about things that are bad dreams, everybody pretty much agrees at this point, it's the majority opinion by psychologists, that dreams are like you're worried about something your brain perceives as a threat that you're aware of recently, and then it puts you through it so that you can make a decision, and it's like a dry run. Whether you remember it or not, allegedly your subconscious might remember it. You just kind of go there, and instead of just locking up, you'll be like, oh, this is what I did last time, and it didn't work in the dream, or it did work in the dream. So I'm going to take those actions again. It'll be the first thing that pops into your head from your subconscious, I guess. It's not like proving because you can't really prove it, but to me, that absolutely makes sense. So if you know why you're constantly losing sleep, waking up in the middle of the night, and you're just like, yeah, okay, I get it. My brain's like, this was a real, actual, perceived, experienced threat. It's a new thing that now you're worried about during the day. You keep thinking about it. I'm going to run you through it a couple times for your own good. You just say, oh, okay, I woke up and I'm sweaty and breathing and I got to get up for a second and let my heartbeat go down before I go back to bed. Okay, I was uncomfortable for a few minutes. That, like, dreams can't hurt you. Now, I believe this is referred to as spiraling, but if you spiral out of control where it's just like one thing after another where you're like, you wake up, you're like, oh, this is the third night. I can't stop dreaming. I'm never going to sleep again. This is never going to go away. I'm never going to get better. I don't know why this is happening. I can't control it. Oh my gosh, my own mind is betraying me and I'm not in control of my thoughts. And then, oh, now I'm having a panic attack over it because this, and then the balloon popped and I freaked out. And what if that happens again? And like, but see, that's all your perception. If a 2-year-old touches a hot stove that's glowing red and they burn their hand, they're going to have, I mean, you would almost consider it an irrational fear, but obviously in this case, rational fear of things that are red, glowing hot, or that like you refer to as hot. In fact, my nephew, when he was about 2, burned his mouth on some hot food, and he spent the next 2 months blowing on every single food item in case it was hot. Remember, this is before he could talk. I think he was actually about 1.5, like almost 2 or something. So he just knew in his brain, like, this is associated with like tissue damage, pain, and I should fear this. So he couldn't put together that it was only some food. So all food, regardless of temperature, because he didn't have a concept of temperature, he blew on. Because that's what his parents showed. Like they said, oh, you got to do this. This is what you do about that. You blow on it and then it gets colder. And he's like, oh, okay. It's a survival thing. It's a very base level of your brain. It's not conscious thought, oh, let me remember that. It's like deep level caveman brain. Ooh, fire hot, me no touch fire. You know why some kids grow up with a horrible, horrible fear of dogs? Because an overly enthusiastic dog jumped on them and tackled them when they were 3 years old. And now they're like, oh, that kind of hurt and was kind of scary. Now I'm afraid of all dogs and all dogs are going to do that. It took my niece like 6 years to get over that. And she's only down to like, I'm uneasy around more dogs instead of just I panic and hide behind my dad. But it's a survival thing, okay? How dumb would it be if you're like, oh, that wolf attacked me, but I'm not going to have a fear of wolves. I'm going to go run up and curiously, oh, what's this? I want to pet it. It looks fluffy. Your brain memorizes traumatic things because it wants you to be afraid of them and flee from them or fight them, fight or flight in the future. So when you get the adrenaline dump and you're like, that's a familiar situation. Like I said, a balloon popping where you mistake it for a gun or a bomb or something. That's what sets off like military people. A lot of military people have a really bad July 4th because of fireworks. They're just like, oh, you hear bombs, you go there. You go to maximum adrenaline, look around, panic, like I'm in battle mode, switch it on, you go from 0 to 100 instantly. But see, your perception of that is what spirals you out of control. If you just accept it, you're like, yeah, I get it. I'm having bad dreams. I know why it's happening. It's fine. Yes, this thing alarmed me. Yes, something jumping out alarmed me. Oh, I was in a car accident and now a screeching brakes or horns make me panic. Yes, I put 2 and 2 together. That makes sense. It's fine. This is natural and it will fade over time because the opposite of learned traumatic, like avoidance, it's probably some term for it, is exposure therapy, where you thought something was dangerous once, or you have like a horrible critical fear of this, that, or the other thing. Like I had a little bit of an anxiety issue with hospitals because I almost died when I was 11 and it was pretty traumatic. Didn't like to be in hospitals. Got uncomfortable, but kept it under wraps when we took I think when I was 14, a field trip to a hospital. Odd field trip, but it was like risky behaviors awareness training. It was like Scared Straight, but for like doing dumb shit. And no, they didn't single me out. They probably would have, but no, we brought the whole school, showed people, hey, here's what bullet wounds look like. Hey, don't OD on this. Hey, here's a person who's crippled. Don't jump off of rocks into pools, or I don't know, whatever. I was pretty high strung the whole time. Like I said, I kept it under wraps because I'm like, this is fine. I just really didn't want to be back in a hospital. You know how I got over it? I got a job at a hospital. And then every day I was just like, yeah, I work here. Like literally after like 2-3 days, I'm just like, oh yeah, medical stuff, gloves, whatever, surgical scrubs, mask. I got work to do. Oh, look, nothing's going to hurt me. This is stupid. This was like freaking 9 years ago. You got to be kidding me. Like, why am I still stressing over this? And you just go. It's just like, if you're afraid of snakes, get near one, see one behind glass, over and over and over. Oh, look, this snake is fine. Oh, look, this is fine. It doesn't have fangs. kind of a bad example because snakes are dangerous and you probably should stay away from them. But if it's like a pathological, horrible, disrupt your life fear of snakes, go get some little garter snake with a 1-inch head or something and let that crawl over you. Safely in a controlled environment, and also like you probably shouldn't do that, but I'm just saying exposure therapy. Like if you have a horrible fear of public speaking, so does everybody except for me. I'm weird. I was just born without it. I don't know. For the other 99% of people, guess how you cure your fear of public speaking? Ask anybody who's a natural born presenter. Yeah, I was a nervous wreck at my first one. Second one went easier. Third one, by the time a dozen were around, I didn't care. It's just the crowd. I'm just talking to people. I'm completely over it. Exposure therapy. If you do something that your brain is afraid of and you freak out and you panic and you get the adrenaline and the heart rate and then nothing happens to you, and then you do it again and nothing happens to you, and then you do it again and nothing happens to you, eventually your brain will like desensitize you because you can't be freaked out about stupid stuff that's irrelevant. It's like a correction for traumatic stuff that it may be mistaken about. So not only should you accept that, yes, this happened, I get it, I'm freaking out over this noise, this sound, because it reminds me of this, it reminds me of the car crash, it reminds me of the hospital, it reminds me of the shooting. But I understand why it's happening and I'm gonna move past it. I'm fine with it. Oh, I was slightly uncomfortable for a couple seconds. Whatever. Thoughts don't hurt you. Like adrenaline doesn't hurt you. You just like, yeah, I was slightly uncomfortable. Okay, let's move on. And then there's a way out. You're not going to be like this forever. That's the other thing. Because, oh my gosh, I'm out of control and I don't know why this is happening. And when is this going to stop? It's only getting worse. Is this ever going to get better? Those are the two things that you never want to pop in your head after any kind of trauma. So if you already know that, you have the knowledge, you have a little bit of like psychological information, which now I've given you. Oh, this did turn into the PTSD rabbit hole, didn't it? I'm looking at the recording time. Oh, well, valuable information. If you agree, thumbs up on the video. But if you know that now and don't try to deal with it all later when you're all messed up in the head from this horrible thing that happened, it's a lot better starting point. Let's just put it that way. And also just for like how to learn to just like switch it off, not freeze up. Watch real world clips on YouTube or elsewhere of like, here was this attack. Here's this actual scene from war. Here's this battle. Here's this gang violence. Here's this, that. I'm not saying like just weird stuff, because people who are into like horror movies and stuff, they're weird. They're just like serial killers waiting to happen. But if you watch it for your own benefit, for educational purposes, and to just be like, oh wow, scary, oh person getting shot, although they usually blur it because rules, and it's more about the situation. It's more about, wow, I'm watching this and this really happened. Those are real people, not a movie, not a video game. And then also, I mean, if you're into it, play video games, play stuff involving like, like Rainbow Six Siege kind of stuff. That was mostly online. Rainbow Six Vegas 2. Go for that one. That one's awesome. That's like tactics. You set that thing on hard, it might as well be real life. That is literally meant to be like a tactical simulation where if you go through the wrong door, you're getting shot. If you look left instead of right, when the hallway opens left, you're getting shot. After your 50th try, you're like, okay, not only did I pick up some skills that are pretty applicable to the real world because it consulted real people to make this video game, but like realistic, actual recorded sound effects of guns going out. I mean, it might as well be VR at that point. Graphics are getting pretty real. Like you can almost consider it a simulation. I know you're probably saying video games aren't real life. Well, if you get way into it and you let yourself like think you're really there, you take it seriously and you're like, yeah, I'm going to get engrossed in the story and the, my teammates and all the stuff going on. Then it's the next best thing besides going out and like actually doing like a shoot where you use like, paintball, fake guns and stuff, which also I've played probably 500 hours of airsoft. A little bit of paintball too. So it's like, yeah, that's other than the projectile velocities, that's real. And it hurts when you get hit. So the fact that I've done that, I've played video games, I've done training, I've seen the footage, that really helps when anything goes down. I mean, plus working security, where I just look at everyone and I'm always ready for like, that person's kind of shifty, that person's weird, that person walked in and out of the bathroom twice, that's odd. What if something's about to go down? That person looks homeless, that person looks high, they're going to be a problem, that person's getting a fight with someone. I would still say that I'm probably 10% as trained as anybody in any military position. So don't think, oh, I handled it so well and I acted so much better than everyone else because, like I said, I made mistakes. I'm nobody that special. I mean, I usually work IT and now I've kind of like retired to do YouTube full time and I sell stuff on eBay. I'm not like some CIA top, special ops dude or like whatever. I'm just some average dude who watched some YouTube channels and did some martial arts and just light stuff. I mean, any kind of professional martial artist or black belt would kick my ass. So like you can get to this level too and you don't have to like, live your life exactly the last 15 years the way I did and gross all your time and free time into training because like do what you want to do, but do establish that baseline and just do the basics, because you don't want the first time that you're in a severe, situation where tactical awareness and just, need to know what to do and you need to just switch it off, or not panic and focus. You don't want the first time you need to do that or have to do that or are practicing doing that to be in the actual real world doing it. Remember, preparedness is all about preparedness ahead of time. So before, during, and even after, with a little bit of, psychological issues you might have after something like this, which if it gets at all bad, talk to someone. I'm just going to throw that in there. Someone qualified would be nice. That's the whole thing. You can't just prepare. You can't just focus on tactics and then all of a sudden, oh, I'm panicking, I'm shutting down. Like I can aim a gun, but oh crap, this is real. I just go like, we're going into video game mode, switch it off. That's what I'm trained to do. Let's go. And I'm not a cop and I wasn't in the military. Like I said, it's not hard to get to that place. So just mentally prepare, watch the videos, watch the training, and continue to learn and expand your skills. I mean, seeing a shooting breakdown or whatever with somebody who's like, here's this, here's that, here's what they did wrong, slow motion, let's do this, let's do that. That's just as good as, oh, I learned how to build a campfire today, They're both useful. In fact, I'd say this is more practical and more useful than just, oh, collapse of society, I'm going to learn to farm. It's like, okay, cool, you should do that, but like, when's that going to come up versus just a violent attack or something? Or like a car crash, like learn some medical stuff. That happens all the time. So I guess, the last point I should say is don't pigeonhole yourself into, I'm only interested in firearms, so all my prepping knowledge is going to be nothing but firearms. Or I'm going to do food and water, and that's it. And then you're 300 pounds and only own one ratty pair of shoes. You are making two drastic mistakes there. You got to do the all-around package, and you got to get into stuff that you're not as into. But there's some stuff that I just don't know how to do because I just don't care. And if I sincerely down at a base level don't care, then my brain is going to mark it as not important and not remember it. That's just how human memory works. So I can't force myself to learn certain things because I just have zero interest in it, even if I know it's important. So you can't cover all the bases, but that's another thing where it's like the whole lone wolf, I'm going to just be one guy in the woods, every man for himself. No, even survival experts are like, no, you have to sleep sometime. Injuries happen. You can't be an electrical engineer while also being a technology expert, while also knowing how to gut a deer, while also this, medical, this and that, plus bushcraft, plus, everything. It's just not going to happen. You got to have a group. You got to have a support group. You got to have backup plans. You got to talk to your family, friends, find like-minded people, find skilled people, have the emergency contacts. And I mean, just think, what if I had no friends, no family, isolated myself from everybody, and then this whole shooting thing and getting stranded in a faraway city happened, and then also Uber didn't work? Well, now we've got a problem. Gotta have that support group, just saying. So that concludes the biggest, both in significance and in length, video on my channel. But I bet this is going to get a lot of clicks because, not many people like me who, make YouTube videos and are into prepping were ever in a mass shooting situation. Although it wouldn't be my channel if I didn't leave you on a little bit of a disturbing but realistic thought. I took a poll, 2,300 votes, okay, on my main channel. I said, if you own a firearm, how many times have you had to pull it out? Either to brandish it or anything on up to firing it. Just came off your waist, it's in your hand for one reason or another. 66% of people said at least once. I had to go with the 4+ option. One was somebody trying to sell me stolen property at my shop. 2 were road rage idiots being idiots. 1 was, I still don't know. I assume they were trying to mug me, but I had it out long before they got to me as they were just running at me down an alley at 1 a.m. while I was playing Pokemon Go. I told you, it's going to keep coming up in this video. And they would have been dead if I would have spotted a weapon, but it was a really dark alley. I don't even want to talk about the other ones, but yeah, we're at 4+. And every time just displaying the firearm, not even pointing it because that's unsafe, not a warning shot, not waving it around like a moron. Just, hey, let's end this situation right now because gun. Like, I'm being threatened enough to the point where, that car's a deadly weapon and he tried to ram me. He literally tried to run me off the road to brake check me. Just a friendly little, I waved the gun out the window and they're gone. They bolt. That happened both times. And those people were nuts, like literally trying to ram me, honking their horn, going crazy. Yelling out the window, flipping me off. I'm like, oh, I'm sure this person will just let me go. It would have ended in a car crash. The dude was blowing past stop signs. It was wild. And all because he blew through a stop sign and thought I did. No, I had the right of way. There wasn't even a yield sign. Screeches to a halt. The whole, tires past it. You never know when this kind of stuff is going to happen. Wish I had a dash cam. Could have gotten the asshole arrested. Now nothing happened to him and he's going to go continue to be an asshole with no charges. Go be a menace to society and probably keep doing it. Probably still think he was in the right. Ugh, just makes me sick thinking about it. But yeah, sometimes you got to pull your gun out. Just saying. 66% of people have had to pull it out at least once in the time that they've had a concealed carry permit. or can legally carry one concealed on their person in their area. Just redid the math, flip that. 34% of people had to pull out their gun at least once. I thought that sounded high. 66% have not had to pull it out. But remember, some people have had a gun for 6 months. I've had a gun for like 8 years. A lot of younger folks on my other channel. Oh, and remember how many people bought a gun for the first time in the last 2 years? It's like 9 million. And most of my viewers are American on that channel. So yeah, if I would have said 10 plus years, it probably would have been 50% or higher. So don't think I'll never need my gun. I'll never be in a situation of a mass shooting. I'll never be in a car accident. I'll never be in a weather incident. Nothing will ever happen to my house. There will never be a hotel fire. There'll, something will probably happen to you. Minor or on up. I mean, severe situations happen. Just think about how many days you're going to probably be alive for. It's like, yeah, you're not going to get struck by lightning, but what if you go out golfing every single day for 50 years? Now you might get struck by lightning. It's like you try. It's like people who buy a Powerball every day for like 40 years and then they hit. That's kind of still astronomical odds, actually. But what is that, like 20, 30,000 attempts at it? If every day is an attempt at not having a severe situation happen and you're going to live to be like 80, guess what? Some kind of situation is probably going to happen. The older you are, the more you realize it. So if you're younger, you just have the mindset of, well, it's never going to happen. Yeah, I'm going to carry, pepper spray and a gun or whatever, but nothing's ever going to really happen to me. That's the kind of mindset that'll make you freeze up when it does happen to you. So it is probably mathematically, as in within probability, probably literally going to happen to you. I never thought I'd be in a mass shooting. Mathematically, probably not. But when you add in robbery, assault, crazy homeless people, crackheads, weather events, half the stuff I just named I've been in, and I'm 34. Don't go through life thinking it'll never happen to you. It might. It just happened to me. And on that, I'll close out the video. So check out the rest of the content on my channel. I have like 3-minute tutorials. I have long podcast stuff that's, just theory, education, interesting stuff, a little bit of like, relevant, stuff that's going on in the world. A little bit, I cover that. I've just got how-to tutorials and like everything on this channel. This is going to be the biggest prepper channel on YouTube within a year. I guarantee it. And if you saw my growth numbers, and I mean, between my other 5 channels and 9 years I've been on YouTube and over 3,000 videos, yeah, we're only going to grow. So if you want to be that cool person that was like, I was in at 2K subs, yeah, feel free. Sub button's right down there. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next video.